back in 1994, The Crow came out, and all the goth kids went wild. It was during a time when the term edgelord wasn't even a thing, but this was clearly a movie for edgelords. And then they've decided to make a sequel. And the question is this too edgelordy for even the edgelords? Because I can guarantee you all need to buckle up, because this movie is going to be severely attacked by all of the 1994 edgelords who are going to come back and get their vengeance against this remake. It's guaranteed going to happen. So let's just go ahead and talk about this movie. Warning. The following show features reviews from wildly unprofessional critics operating without the supervision of professionals. The thoughts and opinions held by these individuals are not to be taken seriously and do not come from a place of intellectual integrity. This show doesn't reflect the opinions of Criticless or its users. Viewer discretion is advised. What's up? What's up? What is up, everybody? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Criticless Cast Unhinged. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2024 remake of The Crow, which has just come out. We've just gotten out of the theaters. It is a Thursday night, and we are hot and ready for you. We've just seen this thing, and like I said, let's just go ahead and buckle up, because, I mean, all that happened was a trailer dropped for this movie. It was like, you know, the news came out, the posters came out, everybody was like, maybe this will be cool. And then the trailer came out and everybody was like, this is going to be the worst movie ever made. This guy looks like the Joker, and that is dumb. And so basically, this thing got turned on pretty quick by all the people that were possibly excited about a Crow remake and the fact that Bill Skarsgard is going to be in it. Now, if you did not know, like I just mentioned, this movie is starring the Scream King himself, Mr. Bill Skarsgard, and the artist formerly known as Twigs, FKA Twigs, whoever that might be. I don't think she was really formally known as a whole lot, because I've surely never heard of her. And so also this is starring Danny Huston, who I did not know was in this, but those are really the big three names that you need to know. And this is directed by Rupert Sanders. What kind of trash are you going to speak over here, Chris? There was a hand that went up.
You're forgetting John Voight.
John Voight.
Who is the main character.
The leading role in
yeah.
this movie.
Yeah. And in our hearts.
Yes. Now, if you do not know, all of us happened to see a trailer that had John Voight's name in it. For some reason, we all focused on his name, even though there were 100 names on the screen, and it has been an ongoing joke all night. But you weren't here for that because you're not cool enough to be here with us. So anyways, yeah, there's like three recognizable faces in this film that you'll see. And like I was saying, this is directed by Rupert Sanders. I wasn't super familiar with him, but this is the guy that did Snow White and the Huntsman, and he did Ghost in the Shell. So this guy has done, I wouldn't call him, he's not known for like mega budget hits. This isn't a household name of a director, but you know, he's coming in to do this remake. And I will say, at least one of the things that made me happy when I saw this was coming out is that we regularly see things like this, and then you'll see a PG-13 rating strapped on something that was like an R movie. Yeah. And that's not what they did here. Thank God, at least they had the sense to do that. But I will say, I can almost guarantee you that this movie is going to have everybody with their pitchforks out in their yards, just boycotting this thing. They already are, and it's just come out. So I am excited to talk about it and hear y'all's thoughts, because we are a wide range of opinions here as far as the series. I don't even know if we can call it a franchise, maybe a franchise, but
there's 5 movies.
No, there's like a lot.
There's 5 movies.
At least 2.
I think 4 or 5. I think this is the 5th one.
Right.
There's some sequels. I mean, this is like more of a reboot.
But I think all of the like fans of this are like, there's one Crow movie.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
And it's the one that starred Bruce Lee's son, and Brandon Lee, who notoriously passed away making this film. And there's so many conspiracies wrapped around that movie, and even just Brandon Lee in general. There's just this whole, the Crow in general is just wrapped up in mystery and weirdness. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Chris Kaus while he's laughing at me. But what's up, buddy? What's up? Mr. Maverlick.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
So yeah, and I will go ahead and say I was going to read the description of this film or the overview, and it's just it kind of gives away a little bit too much, honestly.
Oh yeah,
I feel like it does. You're almost better off reading the synopsis of the first film, but the problem with the synopsis of the first film, Chris cannot stop laughing.
Chris is dying.
He took some like giggle juice tonight or something, and you know, he just can't contain himself. But it was because I made a Don Knotts joke earlier, and he has not been able to contain himself since. So for all of you people who are hyper aware of who Don Knotts is, you know,
it's good shit.
Yep. He's good stuff. So, anyways, yeah, I was reading the synopsis for the original film, and one of the things that I had actually forgotten about it is that like he was a rock guitarist, and I'm like, first off, that's not part of the plot in this film at all, and there should have been a rock guitarist. So, Matt,
yeah, there should have been.
you have most recently watched The Crow.
Yeah.
Where do you sit with that movie, and how did you feel about this remake?
So this is the first time I've seen The Crow. Was 5 months ago. I've not seen any of the Crow movies. And I watched it and I rated it rad on Criticless. I was like, I can see why so many people are like, this is a cult.
It has a 6 soundtrack. That's the biggest thing about it.
I really enjoyed how chaotic the villains were.
Right.
Because you had this gang of wild boys that were truly wild, vile people, like very interesting. And then like the love story angle was interesting, and you don't beat over the head with it. It just happens really quickly and you kind of move forward. So that's what I kept thinking about when I was watching this movie.
Right.
Because there's a lot of love story in this movie.
There is a
lot of love story.
That is something that we should prepare you for, is if you are a fan of the original, or even if not, and you don't know what you're getting into, this is billed as an action, adventure, fantasy, horror film. That's a lot of genres. Yes, all of the above. But the one thing that it's missing is a romance film, because it is almost first and foremost a romance film.
Right.
And action, adventure, fantasy, horror, secondary. So
maybe even tertiary.
Yeah. So this is a different take on this movie, and I with the synopsis, I would say this is basically a love story about two young people who fall in love, and how do I do this without giving spoilers? Like, this is a good bit different than the first one. It's like, how do you even...
They fall in emo love.
Yes, they fall in emo love. It's about two people who fall in emo love, and bad events befall them.
Yeah.
And there is some fantasy and action connected to this story. I guess is the best way to put it.
True.
Yeah.
So just know that there are fantasy elements. There's some action, and just know that that's in there. But this is basically like a emo goth kid edgelord romance story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way to paint this movie out. And really, I just want to go ahead and dig into it. The spoilery section for this review in general is going to be very difficult to do without just really digging into it. So we're going to give you guys our upfront thoughts. So hang around for that, and then we will get into the spoiler section of this. And I'm guessing, well, I don't want to put any preconceived notions on you, actually. So you just decide. Hang around for the spoilers afterwards or not, and if not, just come back. So we will go ahead and dig into it. I want to know our opinions, and do you guys want to do the themes first for this movie?
Sure.
Okay, so just so you know what we're getting into, we'll blast through the themes. As far as how Criticless goes, we rate things based on violence, language, and everything. So we'll go ahead and let you know. As far as language, I think there is quite a few different of the dirty words. It's at least a bit more, probably.
At least a bit more.
Yeah. As far as violence, I would say a ton.
A ton.
There is a ton of violence.
Yeah.
And then for nudity and sexual content, I would say maybe a bit
just
more.
Before a ton. Yeah.
A ton's the most. So you're saying a lot?
I said just before.
So a lot, maybe?
I think a bit more.
A bit more to a lot, because there's not actual, like...
I see 3 butts in this.
There are
you know what?
There are some butts.
You're right. We do see butts.
And there are a lot of through the shirt nipples, but
yes,
they edge you so hard in this movie. You just never get the full nip. You just get edged.
I think there's one scene.
I think so.
I think there was. I think I remember seeing one.
You might get ghosted on an edge of a nip or something. Yeah, maybe. But
ghost nips.
And you definitely get plenty of Bill Skarsgård's nips. I mean, you get those nips all day.
And
so
he'd be blasting them boys.
Yeah, and abs.
That boy's got abs.
He's got to go. He's still quite thin in this, but he still looks. He
did
looks
the light quite thin. Motherfucker was.
He's very skinny. Well,
he's always skinny.
He's always skinny, but actually, I think he was more beefy than normal. He was more muscly than normal, or maybe they were just having him flex and all those scenes.
It's
really
good lighting.
Yeah, and the good lighting.
Yeah.
So family friendliness, absolutely not. Do not take your children to this movie.
No.
And the political bias, I would say none. I didn't catch anything in this that really jumped off.
I didn't really catch anything.
Not a bias.
Nope, not a bias. So, all right, that's the themes on this, and we'll go ahead and give you guys our upfront thoughts really quick, and then get into the spoiler section of the review. So, Matt, you being the most recent viewer of the series, what did you think about The Crow 2024 remake, and where would you rank this?
This might be one of the worst movies of this year.
Wow.
This is down there with Argyle, Borderlands.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay.
Madam Web as one of the worst
would put it
movies this year.
on
This actually
par
might be the worst movie of
This
the
is
year.
worse than Borderlands.
Yes.
I love the
Mm,
twang that came.
maybe
out
by a little bit.
Borderlands.
But yeah,
This is the worst movie saying Borderlands.
this is,
telling
I
me?
think, it actually might be worse than Borderlands.
Really?
Yep. This
Wow.
actually might be the worst movie we've seen this year.
Wow. So you were very opinionated about that. And
Yeah.
do those opinions come from being a previous fan or even liking the original and having
A
something to compare
little
it to?
bit, but also just during the movie, we'll talk about it as we get into the
Okay.
spoilers, but I
Right.
was very unimpressed.
Okay.
The majority of the movie.
Okay.
Mm.
And I'm not sure if like the parts I did like are enough to save it.
Okay.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
Mhm.
And so, Chris,
Mm.
you being someone that
Mhm.
has never seen the original
I am
movie.
someone.
Yes, you are someone who has never
true.
seen it, has no idea really much about the original, correct?
These are all facts.
Okay. So
Yep.
what did you think? Was it the worst
Historically
thing
accurate.
ever?
It
Was-
could be the worst movie I've seen in the past week.
Yes.
the past week.
24 hours? 100% the worst movie I've seen in the past 24 hours.
It also
Yep.
means it's probably the best movie you've seen in the last 24 hours.
Don't put words in.
I'm just saying.
Did he
Yeah,
Get
this
the
movie.
punchline to your joke. Did he cut you off on your punchline? Were you about to turn around and say it's the best movie?
No, God, no. No, that was all his original idea.
Okay.
Matt deserves all of the credit.
Good job.
And yeah, no, this was a boring ass movie. I haven't seen the first one, but this was just edgelord to extreme, and
Yeah.
I just don't get behind that vibe.
Right. So are you like full blown heinous critical scale territory, or are you
At-
more like bogus?
I'm hanging to the left,
Yeah.
and 230 is around the number that
So
I'm
bogus,
thinking for
bogus
this.
range.
Oh yeah. Oh, I guess if that's what
Yeah,
it
it
is.
is.
It is.
Okay, so I actually didn't get my score.
Yes.
Mine's a heinous,
Okay.
and it's probably about 15.
15. Wow. So you went real low.
You're half of me.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. You're half of me. Okay. So all right. So with me and where I sit with this, I am not half of either of you. So with
He's
where I sit
definitely-
with this movie,
Mm.
I don't think it's a heinous for me personally. I definitely don't think this is worse than Borderlands. You can't be much worse than Borderlands.
Have you
personally.
watched this movie?
I did watch this movie. I have not seen The Crow in probably 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So my memory of The Crow is extraordinarily slim. I will say that when I saw it, even back then, it did not blow my socks off. I was like, this movie's all right. It's got a banging soundtrack. Otherwise, like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So I don't have the super nostalgia. I didn't really care if they did something totally new in this or felt tethered to the original.
Sure.
Like, I was just interested to see what they would do with it. I do not think this is a great movie. I do not even like, I see there is some value to be found in the movie, whereas like with Borderlands, there was little value that I found.
Mm-hmm.
With this, there were things that I at least enjoyed as far as I thought the action moments were cool. I thought that some of the action scenes were fun. They were fathoms better than any action moment that happened in the entirety of Borderlands. I thought that those scenes were cooler. So did you like
Sure.
Borderlands action better than the action in this? Because like
No, the action was better in this one, but I was so checked out of the movie at that point
you vehemently
that you
loathe-
were having these great like knee-jerk reactions to cool action things, and I was
Yeah.
just like,
It's because
Okay.
you hate romance movies though, like also.
and 80% of this movie is a romance movie
Right, so
that just
that's-
drags on.
Right. So that's where you
Just continuously drags on. I mean, by the time they got to anything cool,
Right.
that's the reason I only give it a 15. That 15% is the cool action scenes.
I'm still trying to figure out what action scenes in Borderlands y'all are talking about. 'Cause I don't remember any.
I mean,
There
that's
was like what
yeah.
what cool action scenes
Right.
were there?
For me,
There were
what
none.
saves Borderlands is nostalgia for the games and all the little nods they did for it
yeah, yeah,
throughout
I'd say
the whole movie. And I did enjoy some of the action scenes because there
Yeah.
are, even though Chris is being facetious over there, there are action scenes,
I mean,
and I did enjoy them to a degree.
right. And
But it's not much better. I can't remember what I gave it. I think I still gave it a heinous, but I think I
Right.
gave it like a 20%.
All right.
yeah, so like if we're comparing the worst to the worst, I think, and I was kind of almost judging this while watching it on a Borderlands scale. While I'm like, I just watched Borderlands, and that was one of the worst things I've ever seen. So like, I did like this substantially better. I don't mind a romance movie. Like, I don't care. Like, and honestly, I didn't like hate these people. I didn't hate these characters. A lot of like the 2 reviews that I've seen were just like, oh, these degenerates. They're just the biggest pieces of shit. I hate their guts. Like, I didn't like them at all.
Oh,
Right. So I don't know. None of that really bothered me. That wasn't really my issue. I actually felt like they had decent chemistry. It's just like we didn't really, when you go to see The Crow, you don't really sign up for like a 60% romance movie. And that's going to be the biggest problem. Well, one of the many problems for a lot of people. But like that component didn't bother me that bad. The edgelordiness of it was a bit too much, like for sure. But the original is kind of that too. I mean,
sure. And that's why I'm
it's a
not
Godfather
judging it
movie.
beyond, because it was. The first one is like edgelord. It's very, it's a different kind of edgelord because it's 30
It's a
years
90s
ago.
goth kid.
But it's still edgelordy.
Mhm.
They're just very different. So I didn't judge it based on that personally.
Right. It's more of just you just didn't want the romance movie, and then by then you were checked out.
Well, and that's where I started comparing it to the other one, because the other one is not nearly as much of a romance movie. It's a
Right.
romance movie for like 5 minutes.
Right.
How many
It-
butts do you see?
Yeah. I mean,
You don't see any. It's in the 90s.
Wow. Yep.
But it's like, in the original, you get the story set up.
I feel like there wasn't a lot of action in the original though either.
It was a lot more building.
I feel
And
like
it was a lot
like,
more
brooding.
storytelling
Yeah,
and brooding.
is
But
what
this
I'm
one was
getting.
mostly
Yeah.
brooding.
This
When
one
there
was
wasn't a
brooding.
love story,
Well,
it
that
was
was my thing,
brooding,
was like-
and then brief action sequences.
When the action sequences arrive in this, at least, like they show up, and it's like blood splattering on walls and
Sure.
brain matter getting
Yeah.
blown out.
And
Yeah.
now we need to move into spoilers
Yes, we do.
section.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Just so you know what kind of violence you're getting into, which we said it's
oh yeah,
okay, so-
grody.
Yeah, so like that, like the violence here is like hyper violent, and that's why I was like, well, at least it pays off. Like at least it pays
That
off
does.
to some of this build up.
But
At
the
least
rest of the movie felt like a cheese grater being grated across my face.
which we saw.
Wow, we did see in Boy Kills World
Kills World.
or something very similar.
One of the best movies of the year.
Also starring Bill Skarsgård.
Mhm.
So, all right. So I guess we'll go ahead and get in spoilers so we don't spoiler this. But like, obviously, as you can tell, our opinions are not extraordinarily high. Like I said, I'm in bogus range. I'm probably honestly right around where Chris is, like a 30.
Yeah, that's tops for me.
Right.
That's-
And that's about tops for me too.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a part of it where I was like, maybe I could give this a low decent. But then I was just like, as it was going, I was just like, and thought about it afterwards. It just, this movie is not going to be what anybody wants from this franchise. And I think Bill Skarsgård did a fine job, but like, I think he was just working with what they gave him. Like, and I didn't
Yeah.
mind FKA Twigs, like Twigs, she was okay, but like, I don't, she fit the role for what they wrote here.
Sure, she was a perfectly fine, like, I don't know, like trash person, I guess. 'Cause that's what these all were. Like
This
their
is a
whole
trash movie about
circle,
trash people.
they all lived in these like trash apartments and were like
Mhm.
part of these like deviant
They're just-
scenes and
They're
things
just
like
vagrants.
that. Yeah, they were just vagrant people, and like, yeah, that's a great
Millennials.
casting.
No.
And honestly, I loved like all of Skarsgård's like tattoos, because that's what everyone made fun of. They were
Right.
like, and that's when you brought up the Joker earlier. They're
Right,
like,
right.
oh, they have these like modern day like trash tattoos.
Right.
Well, that's spoiler.
Yeah, they're leaning into modern culture, which is why I wasn't totally against that when I saw the imagery and stuff. I was just like, it's all going to come down to how they do this in the movie. But
And they explained in the first 5 minutes, and I'm full send okay with it.
right, I'm okay with most of that. Honestly, most of it I think is just that they were probably saving on budget, so they saved their load all the way till the end,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then they unleashed it. So
Hmm.
just to know what you're getting into. So we're gonna go ahead and move into spoilers now. We're basically there, but just know we're not super high on this. My guess is that this is gonna probably sit in the bogus, if not heinous range on Criticless. And I mean, in Criticless, that's not a good place to be in.
No.
You don't want to not
Nobody
have one of
wants
those. And no one really knows
It's a
what it
war
is. It's
crime.
not-
Old
It's a
slip of the
mystery.
tongue, huh?
Yep.
Definitely a misdemeanor.
Right. So, all right. Oh, and I mean, if you want to go see Pokey Nipples, you can go see this.
Mm.
So that
Mm.
is one thing. You can see a few of those,
Yeah, not.
and a lot of rain. So and wet. I mean,
It's
rain.
wet.
It is. Is this place in Seattle? Is this movie in
No,
Seattle?
it's in Detroit.
Detroit. Okay.
It's
Did they
supposed
ever
to be in
say?
Detroit. And that's the whole thing. In the first movie, it rains the whole time. And there's even a line where it's like, it doesn't rain all the time. Because it's supposed to be
A broody.
it's just
Yeah.
broody and it's raining the whole
Yeah.
time. And that's why
Like
it's,
Gotham.
it's brought up in the
Right.
first movie multiple times
This
by
one, I don't know
multiple
that they say it.
characters.
Did they say it?
I heard
Which
no
is
mention
fine.
of
I don't
water.
I don't need them to like quote old movies.
Granted, there were a whole bunch of random accents from all different types of people
yeah.
all over the world.
At least British and American. At least two.
Yeah,
Those are the only two we know.
Yeah.
right. Everything else falls.
Well, no,
to the
there was like
bucket.
some German
There
folks.
were
and
people
some-
from Austria, but they didn't have an Austrian accent.
Right. Well, like the cop was like a foreign dude. He had an accent from some other country. I did see something actually in the early credits that said something about Germany, And so I'm
Huh.
wondering if this was filmed overseas in Germany or somewhere, and that's why there's a bunch of weird accents all over the place. So it's possible, but I did see something that mentioned that. So, anyways, spoilers now for the umpteenth time. We're getting there, so let's do it. All right, spoilers for this movie. Honestly, I think most people will stick around if they've made it here and they're not like, I'm not gonna watch.
Well,
this.
based on the sheer amount of people that were not in our theater,
Yeah.
there might have been 15 people in our theater. That is the emptiest
Including
theater on
us.
Thursday night that we've been in since maybe the Watchers
Right, probably
or something
Yeah.
like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's been weeks.
It has been weeks.
Yep.
Especially after Romulus last week, where it was a full house.
Yep.
Because it
Multiple
was
theaters.
a gem of a movie.
Yeah. Absolutely true. So yeah, I mean, if that is any tell for what this movie's going to do, it's
Yeah.
not going to do well. Word of mouth's not going to help it at all. I don't think.
No.
And well deserved. There was
Right.
nothing exemplary about this movie. It didn't do anything.
Well, and there's nothing really
Yeah.
redeemable.
There's
about it at
nothing.
all.
No. And that's so I don't know if you guys remember last week I said, hey, the one thing I want in this movie is
Yeah.
ridiculous, over the top villains.
Mm-hmm.
These are the most boring
Mm-hmm.
fucking
True.
villains
Mhm.
I've ever seen. They were the most like, oh, we have to kill somebody. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're vampires.
We're interesting because one guy's missing an eye and one's
Right.
a woman. And I was like, and then the rest were just chubby white dudes.
right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
these aren't interesting. In the
Yeah.
first movie, what makes it a rad for me were that
Uh-huh.
the villains were literally psycho fucking paths.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like, and they were interesting. And you were like, cool, we get to see what the villains are doing. This is interesting. And they're fucking psychos.
Mhm.
No. They didn't they could have done that.
Right.
Even halfway through the movie, it could have been like, let's call in the idiots. And they call like these, whatever you want to call them, the
Yeah.
psychos or
Right.
whatever. And like, we could have had this interesting like kill team of like degenerates show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been
Also known as
fathoms
the FBI.
better than just fighting Goon A, Goon B, and Goon C.
Right. Which is exactly what this was. And they're not
Right.
even like cool goons. They're like
There was
Like-
one cool goon.
one cool goon.
Yeah.
The one with the eye?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The missing eye.
But it's
In the
like in
car,
a movie
smoking
like
a
this,
doobie.
it's like if you're going full edgelord like they were clearly doing, it's like I want the villains to have freaking mohawks and dreadlocks,
Right.
also have face tattoos and like be missing limbs and,
Yeah.
and just
And you know what would have been great? The goons.
right, yeah,
If there was a little goon squad like that or
Right.
something.
right, yeah, yeah. That is one of the biggest failures is the villains in
Yeah.
this movie, I think for sure. But honestly, I mean, like you said, they spend so much time on the romance that like the villains don't even really matter. They're
Yeah.
just kind of cannon fodder at the end. Which, granted, now we need to get into that, which is like the fact that his big murder scene, which was like in a cool location, is also like, why is this dude able to just go into this, opera house with all of these regular people? How
He killed a lot of people.
he did. Well, my thought was is like
Yeah.
all of the henchmen were the only people working at the opera. Did this guy just own the opera? Like, is he the
Yeah. Well, imagine you're Bruce
Bruce Wayne?
Willis,
Yes.
not
What?
Wayne, yeah, Bruce Willis,
Okay.
famous actor,
Yeah.
very wealthy, owns a lot of theaters.
Okay.
Imagine
Mm.
you're Bruce
Sure.
Willis.
Mhm.
You go into your own theater.
Okay.
Are you gonna have just like armed people there for?
He
a
wasn't there.
theater?
He
Huh?
wasn't even there.
What do you mean?
He wasn't at the.
Yeah, he was.
No, he
he
wasn't.
Yeah,
It was his
he
number
was.
2. He was at his mansion
Yeah.
off in
No,
Timbuktu.
he left and went to his mansion.
No.
He was
No.
at.
No.
He was never there.
All right.
He was never there.
Who
They
did I
never
call out here?
showed
Who's
him.
it? Is it OMB? Who critiques me with all of my shortcomings
Right.
that I love?
That's Jeremy does.
I mean,
Jeremy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm as
I'm pretty
Terrapin?
sure.
He won't
We'll-
have seen this. He won't watch it. I
Well,
can
Dude, he was not there.
somebody watch it. He was at the theater, and the chick called her and was like, or called him and was like,
Did you watch it? You fell asleep. Oh, you fell asleep.
I
Yeah,
that's what happened.
He
Yeah,
fell
I
asleep
think
and
he
died
fell
during
asleep.
He
all
was
the
never
theater.
there.
He
That
was.
doesn't
He
make any
was-
sense.
He was there.
Listen, no, Matt,
He was there.
he was there. We're gonna whatever. Yeah. Let's ingratiate him.
Yeah, he was there. And he just
I
decided to
do
up and
enjoy
leave.
being
So his number 2
ingratiated.
calls him when she's there also, and he just decides to get up and
But
leave.
either way, the question of the day is,
He
which
can leave
I guess this answer the
Also, that's apparently a soundproof opera house.
Oh, sure,
Nothing like unloading clips of bullets outside with everybody just
Right.
Yeah, I'm ignoring that.
so and obviously we're skipping way ahead of everything just to the action scene because it's really the best part in the entire movie.
but also the
A bad
worst.
part.
It's just,
Because all of it's bad.
well, I mean, it's not great. I just like the action scenes. They were kind of cool, like the types of kills that he did,
Sure.
or he's like stabbing people with a sword that stabbed through him, and he's like, "Ah," you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that part was the best part.
like
Yeah.
you know, or literally, didn't he have one through his head and he like stabbed one with
Yeah,
through
he
it?
like headbutts him.
All that. There was like
Yeah.
some cool kills. He like chopped somebody's face in half by the mouth. Like there was some cool shit in there.
There was.
And so that is actually kind of what bums me out. Is I'm like, there was something here
Yep.
in all of this component. Like, why did it take so long to get to this? Unless it was budget saving, and then like, why? It's like burying the lead, you know. And why do we save this till the end? Where it's like we got a movie like A Boy Kills World, where it is that kind of action, that kind of relentless murder for the whole freaking film from the time it starts.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do we not just get that for this version and not?
And that's the thing, is they could have spaced it out some, and because I hate to keep comparing it to the first one, but I can't help it. And in the first one, they space out the kills,
Right.
and there's the goon squad's 4 people, and he like kills one of them at a time, and it's spaced out. So you're like, oh, cool, we're gonna get a cool kill every 20 minutes. It'll be
Right.
interesting. And in this movie, we get 30 plus minutes with nothing. We get a short little murder
Which
scene.
was cool. That was a cool scene when it first happens, when he does his first, like the first little bit of kill.
Yeah.
And you find out how violent they're going to go with it. And you're like, oh, I can get behind this.
No,
But
and I
don't follow
agree.
through.
And then, so it's like 30 minutes, you get a kill, and you're like, cool. But then they just like start edging you hard again.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, when's the next kill? And then we finally get some more kills, and you're like, okay, these are okay kills, I guess.
Right.
I mean, this was a shotgun and stuff like that. And you're like, okay.
Mm.
And then we finally like speed up and get some more cool kills. But even then, it's like, how long was this movie? It felt like 2.5 hours.
It didn't
Very
feel.
long.
See, that's the thing. Okay, and that's why I say I was leaning better than Borderlands. Where like to
Mhm.
me, Borderlands, I was like, when is this going to end? I don't want to.
Ah,
be here.
see, I disagree
Oh man,
on that
I
one.
felt it about
you felt
both
it
of
this
them.
too.
Like this,
Yeah.
this was probably worse than
Really for
Borderlands
you?
in my mind.
Okay,
Well, I don't know. Not the whole movie.
right.
Not the whole movie.
Because for me,
certain
honestly,
parts.
even the romance stuff, I was like, but then it just kept going, and I'm like,
That was my
why
problem.
is there more?
The first 20 minutes, I was like, okay, decent.
Right.
I can see this being decent.
Yeah.
And then it kept going, and
Yeah.
it kept going, and then she died, and then it kept going, and
Yeah.
it kept going, and I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ! I thought we were going to see something interesting.
Right, and they
Nah.
just don't.
Wrong. Yeah, no, actually thinking about it now, and you brought it up. You helped me remember.
Yeah.
This is worse than Borderlands. I'll go on record and say
Yeah.
it's so pandering,
Right.
like to a point. Like I've never seen the first one. I mean, I know people who enjoy it,
Mhm.
and I know that type of people. Persons.
Sure.
It's just so on the nose. I don't know. Like it's
not your brain.
gratuitous.
Like you said, you brought up before we started the show, and funny enough, we could go ahead and talk about it, but you compared this to like MGK, and you're like, this
it's
is
MGK people.
yeah. Well, and
It's
this is
him and people who enjoy.
So
it.
what I want to do actually, and we normally don't do that this at this point in the show, but we actually do have 3 reviews for this.
Oh man.
BK Movie Lover gave this a 34%. Sins Quarter gave it a 19, and Vex gave it a 5%. But so down here, basically in the second paragraph of Vex's review, she says, if Megan Fox and MGK wrote a movie about what they think the romance is, this would be it.
Facts.
The Crow lacks all the depth and emotion of both the comic and the original film, reinventing the lore and characters to try and sell us 2 truly weak, degenerate characters that have nothing likable outside of Bill Skarsgård's lean physique. So that first sentence, though, specifically the Megan Fox and MGK, what they think about the romance, like that does feel like what they base this entire film off
it's
of.
a toxic relationship that is being glorified. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of movies that do it in a lot of different ways, but this one is in a certain way.
And so the funny thing is, in the first movie, so the story of the first movie is that Eric and what's her face
Mhm.
owned this apartment, and it's not the best apartment, and they were like, this is our home though,
Yeah.
Right.
and we love it. And he goes out to get groceries or something. He comes home, and some goons are killing her,
Mhm.
and then they throw him out of a window. And it's because a slumlord wants the land, wants them out of the building so that he can demo it
Okay.
and build new buildings. And that's all in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie.
This
wow.
this did, I feel like, if I remember correctly, like I said, this has been 20 years.
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie did a better job of describing the Crow powers.
Bless you.
Bless
Excuse
you.
me, gracious alive. Is that the case, or because I remembered it being very vague about his abilities and how he got them and
This movie was also very vague.
I felt like it told more though. This pretty much explained it.
Yeah.
Like they're like, there's an alternate reality
Mm.
where crows live, and you get crow powers.
Okay,
if you end up in the alternate reality.
Different movies.
You didn't pick up on that?
No, he's talking about me because I'm just like,
No, I'm talking about.
oh,
what
okay,
you
because
just
I
said.
too was just like,
That
I
makes
don't know,
no
you can
sense.
come back to life with crows.
There's not
In
something.
the other movie, they do it more poetically. It's like a grave digger because he like dies and he's in a grave and
Sure.
he climbs out of his own grave in the first
That's
movie,
super cool.
Edgy.
and he's
I
like,
thought that they were going to do that when she came back to life, and they didn't.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
With how they
Speaking of
brought
that,
her
it doesn't
back.
make any fucking sense. So
Time
is she
rewind,
dead
bro.
the whole time?
Okay, look.
No, or time rewound.
It's a different time.
but all those people are still dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
But
different time.
time went back.
We're in the multiverse again.
Oh,
Okay,
man, the
welcome back.
multiverse
Really?
of ravens
No.
or crows.
Yeah.
The explanation for this entire movie. Magic is real.
Yeah.
Mm.
Magic exists.
Well, clearly.
And one must accept all magic and any magical things that might or might not happen.
Can I just say
That is how this movie works.
Sure.
what fucked me up big time?
Sure.
I've never seen the original.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about it. Don't know the plot. Don't know the story.
We have to sit down next week.
Mhm.
We should review like the
I'll sit
original.
down next week.
I know that would be fun to watch The Crow. But
So what I was saying,
yes.
Mhm, mhm.
don't know anything about any of the stuff. What I was most surprised about this was there was like mythology involved. That there was like
Right.
magic stuff.
Right.
I just
When
thought it
that's
was
right.
like the Punisher, vindictive dude.
Right.
Okay.
Set to
Lord.
become The
Yeah.
Crow.
Knew nothing about that. There was some like pact with the devil where
Yeah.
somebody couldn't die.
I don't think
It's
that
like,
was in the
that
original.
was
That's not in the original.
okay. All right.
I think that what they did was they added like more magic to the world to make his magic make more sense.
Yeah.
Because that's what I
Which
remember.
I'm fine with. I
I'm
like
fine
that.
with that. Like, because I remember with the original being like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why does he have powers?
Mhm.
What is even happening?
Right.
And that was my biggest thing with the original.
Yeah. And I think they don't overly explain it in the first one. I think you're right. I think they do just say like basically what the guy was whispering to him about like make this right and the crows watch over you.
Right.
But I think they just do it once. They don't like do it multiple times because
Where
this
he's
movie
going
does
back
it
to that
multiple
world.
times to like drive it home because they didn't explain it the first time.
Talking about driving home. Talk about the funniest thing. I was laughing. I don't know if you heard me laughing, but I was chuckling every once in a while. The edgelord of this carried over into the cinematography to where like the scene where it like he throws his coat, the coat
Right.
onto a
Oh yeah,
chair,
I heard.
Yeah.
You.
and it pans the whole thing and like pauses there. It's not like a subtle thing of like, oh, this is an important part of his
No.
character, this coat.
Right.
And it just focuses on it
No,
for
they're
like
like,
3 seconds. It's
Remember
like,
you
hey,
saw this
hey,
coat before?
look at this coat.
This is a superhero coat.
This is an important coat.
Yeah.
But not only do they do that like initially in the actual scene, they have a flashback to it
Oh yeah.
where it plays the whole fucking thing, where it
I know.
pauses on it.
Do you
It's like, hey,
remember the coat?
can I wink any harder? Let me get a Cyclops here to just like fucking wink at you. This code is important. It was so.
I did hear him. He was over there
hilarious
going.
to me. Like,
It was just.
it
Yep.
was so over
Yeah.
the
Oh,
top.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It was very on the nose, and that's what I didn't want to talk too much crap about the director when we were first talking about the film. But it's like this guy isn't known for being the world's best director. Like he's not one of these notorious
Yeah.
ones. Like you don't see his name and you're like, this guy is gonna do
Mhm.
justice to this.
True.
Like so. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. Sometimes that can be a telltale sign. Not always. So I don't want to always connect to the director. But it's like
But see, that's the fun thing
Gonna
because I
blast.
liked Ghost in the Shell.
right. Which
I thought that was a really good movie. And then
Right.
Chris, you liked that other movie he did.
Now he did do the writer did Gran Turismo, which I actually really liked.
Yeah, Gran Turismo was good.
It was quite good.
I like that too.
what was the other movie?
I don't remember. Or I would have said his name.
Oh, it was Snow White and the Huntsman.
The
The Huntsman.
Hey, boy.
That's a movie I would watch.
The poor redo of it. I'd watch it.
Review that now on
I would too.
Criticless.
Yeah, no, it was fun. You know, it was like an early 2000s
Right.
or early mid 2000s
Yeah.
Right. It was
werewolf movie.
Werewolf.
Yeah.
No, wrong
Hunt-
movie. No, You're thinking of the wrong movie.
Oh,
You're thinking wrong.
This
That's a
is
Snow
Snow
White.
White and the Huntsman.
yeah. There's werewolves.
No,
Don't
There
worry
should be.
about it.
That makes it now a much better movie.
right.
Thank you.
No, this one had Chris Hemsworth and Kristen Stewart before she looked like she crawled out of a dumpster.
Yeah.
She
So-
always looks like that, and that's what's appealing about it.
This is-
It's the
She
dumpster.
could
vibe.
have been in this movie.
she could have.
Great.
She could have
Good.
actually.
She could have.
To the
She's
FKA
definitely a
Twigs.
better
Well, she-
actress.
Yeah, she is a better actress.
All right, we're hating on feature, former. What was she going by? What's her
No one
first
knows.
name?
No
Something
one
with an
knows.
F.
Not a real name.
Twigs.
Twigs.
No, but it's FT.
It's
Yeah, formerly known
Oh,
as.
formally. Her name is formally.
Yes.
That's her first name.
Yes.
What's her formal name?
Yeah. Did y'all notice the like gratuitous amount of lip
Oh, yeah.
scenes in this? I
yeah.
feel like at least 65. I'll give you. I'll be rational, not exaggerate.
Mhm.
65% of the scenes
Mhm.
were like focused on people's
Mhm.
lips.
This is like Quentin Tarantino with feet, except for
Yeah.
lips.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This dude has a lip
it's
fetish.
all part of the edging.
You're right.
Because they were just trying to edge it. It's trying to be sexual. But
And she
see
has
my front
the.
teeth.
She do have some nice
She
lips.
had them.
I
Yeah,
let her
tried to
swallow my mouth.
the teeth like
That makes
Blandish we're showing here.
These.
That is what you see in majority of the movie.
Gopher
As long as she's alive.
or rabbit.
I think rabbit.
Either
Could
way.
be. Probably
Yeah,
carrots.
this I'm just so interested to see these scores come through Criticless and see the roast that's gonna
Dude,
happen.
I
will
cannot wait.
tell
I'm
you-
gonna have my popcorn. I'm just gonna keep popping popcorn at home
just
all day long tomorrow.
honestly, I'm curious how many will come through for this, just because it's like when word starts to trickle out that things are this level of bad, it's kind of like Borderlands, where I'm not sure where we're at currently, but
Where Borderlands doesn't get reviewed.
Who gets the highest, or who gave the highest review of Borderlands?
For
I want to read
Borderlands.
that review.
right,
There are people that are giving it like decent.
decents are about as high as it's.
I
getting,
think that's as high as it goes.
which
yeah.
I'm having some internet issues currently, so my
Mm.
stuff's not loading.
We
But
are in the
oh, there we
bunker.
go. So yeah, I was gonna look at that, but yeah, it's so Borderlands has a total of 19 reviews, which is very low, especially of late, and there's nothing over a decent. So I mean, there are quite a few decents actually, believe it or not, but yeah, it's with this one, it's probably going to be about the same. I will honestly be surprised if we see 19 reviews. We might see like 12.
Yeah, I definitely don't think people are gonna go out. First off, people who love the first one are
Right.
probably already just wrote this
Yeah.
off and are not.
Yeah.
Like we probably wouldn't have seen this if it wasn't for this podcast.
Right.
Oh, 100%. God,
Yeah, this is not a movie I'm running out to watch.
No. So I mean, yeah, it's really at the end of the day, there's so much we could dig through and like pick on and
Dude, there's so many
rip.
plot holes and stuff. Like they just escape their like little facility there.
and nobody hunts
and
them down.
Nobody questions it, and then they just
Right.
go back to their drug dens
Normal
slash
society.
apartments and
Which in
All's
his
groovy.
backstory and the dead horse and like what even was all that?
It's the most edge lord of edge lords. Like that's not gonna fuck somebody up that bad.
Right.
no. To me,
Unless
I
you're
think
having
that was just showing that his
sexual relations.
parents.
I think his
his
parents died
mom.
too or something.
No, he burned.
they were
He
just
burned down his house with his mom.
deadbeats.
That's what my takeaway was.
You thought
Yeah.
so?
That at the very end, they showed him like he had a flashback and he was sitting outside that single wide and it was on fire.
Was it
I
on
think
fire?
yes.
I thought it was a bunch of crows were on it.
That's at the
That was in
very
the
beginning.
beginning.
Oh,
At
there's
the
another.
end, he
flash.
has like a flashback when he's like dying
Oh.
and it's on fire.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
think
see
he
that.
burnt it down,
Oh, okay.
and that's why he's all
Who-
jacked
who
up.
cares?
Right.
That's how I feel about it.
Because that's the
It's
thing.
like
As much time as they spent explaining this damn relationship between these two people, which like
Mhm.
really didn't matter as much as they wanted it to.
No,
it's a
There's so many things that they could have spent explaining, or not explaining at all, and just giving us a shit ton of action, so that we were just like, yeah.
yeah,
it wouldn't have mattered either way. Like the backstory behind it was
Right.
so just like meth head white trash
Mhm.
backstory
yeah.
that it's just like I don't have any sympathy or care for these people. Like
Right.
you're I mean that sounds
I didn't,
very
like-
harsh to
I didn't,
say.
I didn't hate them, but it was just one of those things where I'm just like, but at the same time, like, there's only going to be a certain type of demographic of people who are going to be like, yeah, these are my people. Like,
Oh, yeah.
these are-
Yeah, it's not that I didn't like it. It's just I just didn't.
No, you hate poor trashy people.
I hate
Go
poor
ahead.
white people.
Yeah.
Fucking poor white people. Man.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my past. and I don't like it.
Yeah. So,
But so if they had spent, maybe 10 minutes on their love story and then spent just the next hour of him like coming to grips with his power and all that, I
Right.
think this would have been a much better movie.
I agree.
And it would be better received, I think, by the majority of people.
Yeah, probably so. I mean,
I
but
don't think
still, I think it's insistence on just staying so edgelordy, even though that's kind of what the original was. It's like this isn't the level of like this isn't the type of modern edgelord we want. This isn't it, and most people are not.
It's primo.
And I am curious to see what
like
general
emo.
like young right.
Yeah.
I want to know what younger people are going to think about it, like Gen Z, because it felt like it was catering to that immensely.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's just like a cyclical thing of this was popular in the 90s.
Right.
Like,
and so that's
that was only to the younger crowd.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I am curious, is like if there are younger people that we hear that like this or whatever that don't have any attachment to the original when this was catering to them, where that's like my video that I put out today on for the news segment, even though it wasn't news, was just speculating on like I literally made the comment. I'm like, are we all going to hate this as millennials because this is like edgelord for Gen Z, which I knew it was going to be, and which it is, and it's like, are we shitting on it because this isn't our edgelord, or like
it could be our edgelord personally, because I can look back on my past and be like, that's fucking cringy as shit what I was doing as a kid. Right. So like there's no difference to me. Like it's still edgelord cringe regardless. Like I can respect, it's the same as when we were a kid or now, like to me personally.
And it's, for me, my stance still stands. If this was 80% less romance and they just structure the story differently,
and just
this still, even if it was still edgelordy, like I'm still fine with him, like with his like haircut and all of his tattoos and stuff, which is this era and all that. I'm like, that's all fine. It's just, this is more a rom.
I did like the can I say, I like the black blood. The black blood was really cool. Especially when it was mixed in with the red blood, and then we got like his blood smeared all over everything, and the other blood. It was kind of reminiscent of like 30 Days of Night, how they played with blood and made it like pop in a way that we haven't seen before. Seeing this black blood mixed with that, I thought was cool in the opera scene, as wildly unrealistic as that scene was as a whole for how that event played out, where like I almost would have wished that like it could have been a simple thing, like even like when he had the severed heads and tossed them out into the crowd, I'm just like, this is too much.
I groaned internally at that, because that was pointless.
Like why did he just do that? Like he's just like, I'll fucking hate everybody, and I'm like, are you trying to make him the villain of the film? Like it feels like that's what you're trying to do at this point, because why? Like these are innocent people. These people had nothing to do.
No, she was in the room.
I'm talking about all of the people watching the opera.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the people they chopped the heads off.
Not he killed them. It was all of the people watching the opera. Like, why did they deserve for him to go out with severed heads?
Still rich,
right?
And rich people deserve to be tortured.
And that is what I think the statement.
That's a great point. That probably is the statement.
Yeah, right.
Slightly left.
Which way are we turning it? Ooh, interesting.
I think that's slightly left.
It is left. I would put that.
No, hating the rich is definitely left. That's,
absolutely.
That's not right.
Everybody knows that.
Not an interesting
joke.
Everybody knows that right wingers love money.
Joke.
So I mean, there's no denying any of this. But
one more thing, the main villain. So boring. Like so boring.
Sure.
I thought there was gonna be some sort of like epic like fight at the end, since he'd been alive for hundreds of years.
Well, and they bring you down to a single battle with one dude.
Right.
Okay.
And he lets him whisper in his ear the thing that he knew he does.
So this is one of those Superman situations to where going into it knowing where they literally tell you you cannot die, you can feel pain, which conveys nothing to the audience, but you can't die, takes all of the emphasis out of any like tension in this movie. So there's no like, oh, is he gonna succeed in his mission? It's just like, oh yeah, he can't die, so I'm just gonna watch him chop people up, and I can go to fucking dark web.
To be fair to this movie, what they did try to do was say he was going to steal his ability not to die. And that's kind of what they portrayed.
He pulled the blackness into himself, and then he pulled his blackness back out into himself. So as one does,
passing of the black card back and forth. I see what they did there.
There was some kind of racial allegory in there that we weren't picking up on. I don't know what it was, but
you just found it.
So I don't know. It's a movie. You can watch it
or
at your own peril, or don't. I mean, I didn't hate everything about it. I'll put it that way. And I honestly didn't even despise the romance, but also I didn't need 90% of this. So it is what it is. We don't have to dig into it. I did want to look. I did just want to bring it up because I was curious if this was going to be one of these movies that critics like simped for.
What's this been a movie?
Well, this was a movie. The critics currently, it's sitting at a 34 reviews at a 24%. So this is already doing better than Borderlands. I will say that. They don't think it's as bad as Borderlands, which I also don't think it's as bad as Borderlands. But there are several people. I'm not going to read reviews or anything, but we have a surprising amount of solid tomatoes for what's going on here. But they aren't all wholesale hating it. And I had a feeling that if it was going to get some thumbs up, it would probably be for some critics who are buying the cheese that they're selling in this film. So
yeah, which I mean, the original movie wasn't. It's a cult classic. Like it's not
no
like critically aroused,
critically appraised.
That
is
acclaimed.
Yes,
Thank
no,
you.
it's not.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the expectation was behind the reviews on this, but if they didn't enjoy the first one,
I mean, the original has an 86% from critics.
What?
So,
But this
was
after the fact, though. You got to think it's
convince
the
me.
way Rotten Tomatoes works was, obviously wasn't there,
right?
So it's like these critics can go back and review it after the fact, but they probably already like it at that point.
A cult classic,
right?
I guess.
So that's where you can't trust.
You told me
that.
Yeah. You can't trust that score. So it's kind of like even how we talked about with like Boondock Saints, where it's like that score came way after the fact. Like if there had been critics that reviewed it at the time before like the hatred of the director came up and all of these things wrapped around that film, there's a good chance that score would be substantially higher.
Right.
So yeah. Anyways, this movie, not great. Go ahead and leave your review on Criticless and let us know what you think. I am interested. I think that most of these, if people do take the risk, will not like it a whole lot. And I'm sorry if you liked this. If you did, honestly, me versus these two guys, I can see how possibly some like Gen Z younger people, no attachment to this, are okay with modern edgelordiness, could be into this at least to some degree. But I still don't see this. There is no way this is going to become a cult classic. I just don't see that happening.
I agree. I really don't think this will be a cult classic. And I think they were trying to do like the thing with the Venom, because Venom failed, but then they realized, people were liking this for a rom-com aspect. And I almost wonder if they saw that and they were trying to buy into that with this.
Yeah, they could have been. So yeah, I don't know. That's been it for this review, guys. We're going to dip out. As far as next week, we're not 100% sure what's happening. There's not a whole lot coming out. There's one space movie. There's a few other things that we've talked about. So we'll let you know next week. I mean, Chris and space movies get along really well, but this movie's not going to be super big. So we'll see.
Just like me.
Yeah.
What do you got against it?
Nothing, Chris. So we'll see. Let us know if there's anything that you guys want us to review coming up soon. And with everything coming out in theaters, we're on the tail end of summer. I mean, the summer blockbusters are over. They're done and gone with. This is kind of the dregs of summer, if you will. And that's obviously what we've gotten with Borderlands and The Crow. And to the point in which I disliked Borderlands so much that I literally couldn't remember what the last thing we reviewed was. So if that says anything, but
that's fair.
Well, now we're on to fall movies. Starting, I mean, not next week, the following week. Beetlejuice.
We'll get Beetlejuice, right? So I'm all for fall. We are all a bunch of fall sluts around here. So give me that 60, 70 degree weather and wet panties all around.
All the time.
Yeah. So, guys, it's been real. Take it easy. We'll see you back in the news next week. And this has been a blasty blast.
A river Dershi.
Later, y'all.